I wonder if I am the only one that can see it. It's pretty stereotypical to the depiction throughout the history. So I wonder if maybe there were and are others. It makes me think that all the fantastical creatures, monsters, and beasts we see in movies did not actually come from an imagination, just from people who could see things that others could not. Maybe it's a mixed bag of both. If that's true, and people see things like fairies and unicorns, how lucky for them. Maybe we all see and we just don't share that information out of fear that others will think we are crazy. I don't think you are crazy until you tell someone. I hope by telling you all this, you will call me crazy. I can see death, and death has seen me. The first time I saw death was when I was 7 and staying with my grandparents. During the summer, my parents always took a parents-only vacation every year. My grandma said that it helped them to stay in love. I wonder if she saw Cupid readying his arrow as they dropped me off. She was right though. They would come back from their yearly trips deeper in love than when they left. That summer, my grandma left this world. I saw it the moment she did. It was late at night. We would always stay up watching old movies together. It would get late and she would lay down and fall asleep on the couch. I'd be cradled in the crooks of her leg. This time she would fall asleep while we were watching a movie and about a detective investigating the mafia. She always snored, not loud, but with enough volume so you would notice. It approached from the left side of the room. It did not walk into my vision as much as it had just appeared mid-stride. It was a pitch black figure in a robe. There is an instinct buried deep within our subconscious that comes out in these moments, and or at least that's just what I believe. This instinct said, be afraid, don't move, don't make sound, and don't look. I kept my eyes focused on the TV as it glided across my room. In front of the TV and to the side of the couch just out of view. Silence has a presence and emptiness can fill a space. My grandma stopped snoring and slowly rose up towards the thing. I never turned away from the TV, but I could feel her and it as they moved away. It would be another 5 minutes before I had enough courage to stop looking at the TV. When I did, I turned my head to face my grandma, laying right where she would always been. She was gone though. I knew it. Death has a feeling, and I felt it that night. I would spend the rest of the night nestled in the crook of my grandma's leg. In the morning, I would feel sadness as my grandfather gently nudged me awake. He had tears in his eyes. That emotion would always arise soon after death. I would not see death in person again until 15. It was the first football game of the year. We were up 14 and about to push the team into the fourth down. My best friend started defense and I played offense. He played safety, the last line of defense. He wasn't the best at tackling, but could break up a pass. Something fierce. The running back and Chris met in the middle, both with the head full of steam. Chris put his head down before impact. The play ended in a silence that seemed to last forever. Death appeared again, out of nowhere. That same subconscious cold chill shot itself through my body. Don't speak, don't move, don't look. But this time I did look. How could I not? This is going to sound crazy, but do you know those movies where someone either dies or has an out of body experience? They seem to just float up and out of their bodies and then look at themselves still sitting where they were. That's kind of what happened here, except Chris did not float, he was grabbed. Now that it wasn't dark room, I could see it clearly. It was around 8 feet tall with that fucking scythe, the same size as his body. It had those freakishly bony hands. A hood covered his head. It flipped the scythe upside down and plunged into the Chris's chest and pulled him out of his body. Chris rose, kicking, flailing, screaming in pain, or at least that's what his face led me to believe. He did not make any sound, but I could feel it. Hot tears arrived on my face. Screamed, and I screamed so loud that turned its head up from Chris and looked at me. Abyss is the only word I can use to describe looking into its hood. Then they disappeared and I could hear my own screams. The trainers ran out to the field. My screams were soon joined by his parents in the stands. The last time I would see Death would be in my mom's hospital room. When I was 29, she had been losing sight of a battle with cancer. The doctor gave her a month. My father had been by her day and night in the hospital for what felt like 2 months. I told him to go home and get some sleep. I would stay with my mom. That night Death would come again. I was sitting in a chair right near the hospital bed, facing my mom. I was holding her hand. She used to be force of a nature, but now she felt so frail. I was looking at her when that cold chill came again, and the silence could be felt. Death was on the other side of the bed, hovering over my room. I remembered Chris. I stood up and tried to push it away, but my froze before my hands could make contact. I looked up towards his head and stared deep into its abyss behind the hurts. I was filled with anger. I was there when it took my grandma. I was there when it took my Chris. It would not take my mom in that way. I yelled at it to leave, to forget my mom. My yells turned into begs, which turned into sobs, which turned into silence. I fell to my knees, crying to my hands. Death moved from side of the bed over to me. It knelt down. I could feel it beckoning me to raise my head to its. I tried to resist, but I was powerless. As I stared into that abyss, its head slowly moved back to expose its face. I was looking at the true face of death. I learned how I would die in that moment, or at least how would I would have died next to my wife in old age. We would go the same night, not leaving the other alone from a moment on this earth. That's how I would have gone. Now, I don't want to say how I will die. That was pleased with the information it had imparted. Happiness and anger all wrapped into one emotion. That's what I felt it from. It stood back and made its way back across the bed. It made me look at it as it tore its scythe into her body, violently removing what soul she had left. She looked at me, terrified and screaming. I could hear the screams this time. I laid on the ground, crying through the night. I would not stop until a nurse came in the room next morning and found me sobbing in the fetal position. Tears no longer flowing. I know how long I have felt, and I know how I go. I am telling you this now because I want you to be crazy. I lay awake every night, remembering what death showed me. It's the only thing that I see when I shut my eyes. I'm going to beat it to the punch, though. I would rather skip to the finish line of screaming on a scythe rather than lay around waiting for the death that is to come. So I'm writing this for anyone else who might think they are crazy because they see death just like I have, just like I will. Don't speak, don't move, don't look, and the death will come and go. If you should feel the desire to, just know the death will look right back at you and you will see the abyss.